Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I have put a lot of time into the Black Ops 6 beta so far, more than I probably should have, all things considered, but nonetheless, I've been playing it a lot. I've been checking out a bunch of different weapons, different modes, really trying to experience as much of it as I could. That way I could have the most informed takes and informed opinions on what I like and what I don't like about the game. And today, I want to deep dive into Black Ops 6 and break down what I really enjoy about it, but then also talk about the things that I'm really not enjoying so far, give some feedback to the devs, provide some opinions on what I think they could change or do better, ultimately to have a better game at launch. For what it's worth, and if you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen me tweet this, I'm actually having a decently hard time finding things that I really just don't like about this game. And I know some of you might be running to the comments right now, oh, you're a shill, you just have to talk nice about Call of Duty. You can check the channel, I got receipts all day. I'm pretty critical when it comes to the things I don't enjoy about COD. I've ripped into MW2 pretty much since its inception because of what Infinity Ward did on that game that I did not enjoy. Same deal with Warzone 2 and all the regression we took that year. MW3, certain elements that I thought were a little bit dull or monotonous, and same deal with Warzone 3. I'm always going to keep it objective because I feel like that's how you provide the best information, and that's ultimately the goal of this channel. At the same time, I want to give as much feedback as I can to ideally help the devs perfect things so at launch we can have the best possible games. So throughout this video, if you enjoy the points that I'm bringing up, if you agree with them, you want to share the video around and get more eyes on it, a like rating does seriously help the channel grow. Also, if you're new here, you want to guarantee you're always up to date with everything going on in COD, this is your one-stop shop. I got you covered on a daily basis, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But I do want to start off with a few of the things that I really do enjoy about Black Ops 6. We're going to spend less time on these because it's mostly just a pat on the back to Treyarch. Hey, you did good. You don't need to change that. We can go much more in depth with the negative things and the cons of BO6 to provide some insight into how I think those things could get better. But first and foremost, the biggest standout with BO6, Omni movement. It takes some getting used to. Like, there is an actual learning curve with Omni movement, which I think is very good for COD. COD gets a lot of, flack for, oh, this is the same game as last year. It's just a reskin of this. Every COD is the same always. And for the most part, like, the game is incredibly similar. We know what to expect from Call of Duty, but Omni movement is the first time in a long time that Call of Duty actually introduces a greater learning curve. When I first started playing and I was level, 3, 4, 5 in the beta, I was definitely not moving around the map fluidly. I was struggling to learn the mechanics a little bit, but as I played more and more, it's like, okay, this is the best way to string together the dives, and this is the best way to string together the slide cancels, and when I should chow around corners, I should be doing this and that and whatever else. The movement feels good once you get it down, and it is a ton of fun to try and, get some clips, get some nice, like, double, triple, quad kills with it, finesse a little bit. The movement feels phenomenal, and I imagine it's only going to get better and better as they tweak various elements of it, for launch and maybe even throughout the beta as well. Another thing I'm really enjoying is the map design. I don't necessarily love every map. Scud, kind of looking at you, you're a little bit boring to look at color-wise. I get it, it's just not for me. But the designs of these maps are actually pretty good. They feel like classic COD maps, and especially on the objective modes like Dom, Hardpoint, when players are forced to go to certain lanes and not just sit back and camp around the edges like in TDM. I think the maps play really, really good. So the map design gets a big W for me, and I'm really excited to play more maps considering they've pretty much marketed all of them as those classic 3-lane Treyarch design maps, and Treyarch always makes some great multiplayer maps. Another thing I think is really, really cool is the lessened aim assist, and this is coming from a main controller player. I've played a lot of keyboard and mouse and a lot of controller in my time, especially back in Warzone 1, played a lot of hybrid going back and forth and was, pretty good on both of them, more so on controller, but still decent enough on keys. And this year, that close range aim assist, if you haven't heard, is reduced. Controller aim assist in the close range is not nearly as strong as it has been for several years, which was a big complaint of mouse and keyboard players. You basically couldn't win gunfights against good controller players because aim assist is so strong and so cheesy. Now, aim assist has to exist for controller players, especially the more casual audience. Without it, they just wouldn't stand a chance. But the fact that there is now a lessened gap in terms of just pure aim skill and aim assist between controller and keyboard and mouse is huge. I still think controller is going to dominate this game, especially with movements and especially in Warzone where there are a lot of fights that are further out, and so aim assist is kicking in. I think it's like 8 meters or something. Within that, the aim assist doesn't nearly kick in as strong for controller now, but lessening that gap in between inputs is huge. There is still always going to be one, but this is a fun tweak, and it's been interesting getting humbled in the close range because I'm so used to aim assist working a certain way that you can't break it and cheese it and abuse it this time. So it's just another learning curve, really, which I think is good for gameplay. And speaking of gunfights, I think gunfights feel pretty good in terms of weapon behavior and how they feel. There is a lot of diversity, I think, in how the weapons feel. Like using a rifle, you definitely notice it's a rifle. It's not just like, hey, I can max out all these attachments, I can do all of this, and it feels just like an SMG and I'm unstoppable. No, the rifle fights feel like rifle fights. The SMG has the better movement. It's faster up close, so you can feel like you're running and gunning and, you know, finessing there. You want to sit back and snipe, you can do that, but you can also build out a sniper to be more aggressive. And the gunfight sort of diversity and just the overall feel of gunfights so far, especially with omni movement mixed in, I've also really enjoyed as well. We talked a little bit about attachments there just briefly. The attachments in this game, all having minimal cons, provides for such a broader diversity when it comes to weapon builds and the meta, right? Like, there will still be meta attachments in the go-to builds that are more balanced between close range and mid-range, or balanced towards ease of use or whatever. But if you are someone who only cares about mobility, you can go all in on mobility and not have to worry about killing the control on a gun. If you just want to focus on range and velocity, you can do so without killing the mobility of a gun. It provides for so much more fun builds and balanced builds that I think weapons are going to be more enjoyable to use because of that. The attachment changes this year to just feature pros and extremely minimal cons is one of the biggest W's, I think, so far. Then also, just with this game being a beta, you know, we've had betas for a long time now. Black Ops 6 feels very polished. We know that this is the longest developed COD in history with a 4-year dev cycle, right? But it actually does feel like a truly finished game. It doesn't necessarily feel like a full-on beta in terms of gameplay and mechanics and fluidity and how it functions. It feels like a beta in terms of, hey, we're pretty limited with content, and that is what it is, just like every beta. But from a gameplay standpoint, the game feels fluid, the game feels polished from what I've experienced most of the time, and it's definitely one of the better betas in terms of playability, I think, in recent memory at least. Now, let's shift over to the negatives, the cons, what I don't like about Black Ops 6. Like I said, I want to go more in detail here because this is what we do, this is what we talk about to ideally help the game become better for launch and put the game in a better place throughout the entire year, really. So first up, biggest drawback for me right away, the spawns. They are bad, just outright. Just to be blunt, the spawns are not good. Now that's something that pretty much always gets tweaked. Spawns in the betas are usually not the greatest, and they become a lot better and a lot more consistent throughout the year. But yeah, so far, I'll run around a corner and an enemy will spawn behind me, and then I get taken out just because the enemy felt like spawning there. Or I'll be running through and I'll turn a corner and I'll see someone just pop up on my screen. Hey, free kill. Thank you very much. On to the next one. The spawns are rough. The revenge spawns, the spawn flipping, they're not consistent. They are messy. I know Treyarch's going to work on these. They probably are already going to have some updates for like weekend 2 and whatnot. But yeah, the spawns are very, very rough. One thing in particular that I actually didn't think was a con that turned into a very obvious, very obnoxious con quickly was party matchmaking. So I pretty much always play COD in a party. Whether I'm playing Warzone, I'm squatted up. If I'm a multiplayer playing with some friends, I just prefer the party experience as opposed to solo. And throughout most of the day yesterday, I was playing in a party of 3, 4, 5, a little bit of 6-man squads, right? And we were having no problem getting into games, having some fun. We would win some, we would lose some. It was a good time. Then it got into the later hours of the evening. We had like a 4-man party for a little bit. We could find games decently consistently there. Then we got into a 5-man party, and for whatever reason, the matchmaking just took a hit. We spent, I kid you not, we even did this on my stream, like 10 minutes searching for a game because it wanted to find us a balanced lobby because of skill-based matchmaking or engagement optimized matchmaking or whatever. Wanted to find us a balanced lobby where one enemy player was on, or one random player was on our team, and then the other team had parties. And I get that, you know, there should be no case where a 6-man squad is constantly playing a team of solos or 1 duo and 4 solos or whatever. But to spend 10 minutes searching for a game and basically being unable to find a match because you're in a certain party number is ridiculous to me. The matchmaking took a severe hit, like just randomly when we changed our party size, and that was not ideal whatsoever. When we got into games as well, we were playing on like 150 ping. It was really strange. Hadn't experienced that at all up until the first night of the beta, but when we did experience that, that changed my perspective really quick. It's like, okay, yeah, this matchmaking needs some work, and we already know the game's gonna have skill-based. I don't really enjoy skill-based just because of what it does to connection. I could care less about the skill. I'm a good player. I'll be able to hang just fine in whatever lobby. The connection is what matters to me. And yeah, that just was not a great experience there. Connection in general also doesn't feel like it's significantly different from COD in years past. To be expected, we're likely on the same servers, so hit reg is still gonna feel super inconsistent. Gunfights are gonna feel weird. Like sometimes it seems like you die in 2 shots, even though the enemy shot 5 and you feel like you shot them 3 or 4 or 5 times. That inconsistency is kind of just a part of Call of Duty. It should be updated. It should be fixed with better servers, and we know they just haven't really ever addressed that, unfortunately. I don't expect them to address it. It would be a pleasant surprise if they did. Visibility on certain maps is rough at times, specifically on like Derelict. I have a tough time sort of pointing out enemies that might be in and around shrubs, or on certain head glitches or head peaks. It can be really hard to spot an enemy at times. It didn't seem like it was a super consistent thing, just sort of one-off situations like, oh, that guy was in a really weird place. It was tough to see him there. I probably should have seen him, you know, if there was a little bit better visibility in that specific area with the lighting, or how thick the shrub was, or how much that person's player model stood out, or something like that. So visibility has been a little bit inconsistent. It's not a major concern, but it was something I noticed throughout my, you know, decent 10, 12, 14 hours of gameplay so far. This next issue is one I think a lot of players are going to have: the weapon leveling speed. Obviously, we've switched it back up. No longer are there like 15, 20 levels max on a weapon. It's like 40 to 50 per gun. And I don't know if it's just because it's the beta or what. They say double XP is active and whatnot, but leveling guns takes forever. Like, I want to go through and I want to experience all the attachments. I want to experience a bunch of different weapons and see how they perform with certain builds on them. And if I wanted to do that for every single weapon in this beta right now, I'd have to be playing 20 hours a day. I feel like I played a ton and got like 3 weapons to like a mid-tier level, like level 30, late level 20, so on and so forth. Takes a long time to level up, and I'm especially concerned with this for Warzone as well, where weapon leveling isn't necessarily always as easy because you don't consistently have that specific weapon in your hand unless you're playing something like Plunder. So I don't know, like I said, if it's just because it's the beta, they don't want it to be super fast, but the weapon leveling, it was slow. So I do hope that changes a little bit. This one is a little bit more nitpicky, really specific to just my situation. Like I said earlier in my pros, I really like Omni movement. The one thing I'm struggling with is trying to figure out what input I want to have for sliding versus diving, because I feel like diving is really important here with Omni movement, but slide canceling is my most used movement mechanic, and I want the snappy, no input delay slides. Like in the past, I've used slide only with no dive just because then it's instantaneous, there's no delay. This year though, I want to incorporate dives, and using hybrid is all right, but it sometimes still doesn't dive when I want to because you have to press in both sticks. You know, having tap to slide and hold to dive means there's going to be a slight input delay on that slide, so it's not the snappiest movement. I almost wish there was like separate buttons to slide versus dive, or have it so like you could double tap your right stick if you wanted to dive, or something different there where it was a bit more customizable. Obviously on keyboard and mouse you can just change the keybinds, but on controller I felt a little bit limited in my ability to really optimize both of those mechanics in my gameplay simultaneously, transitioning from diving into sliding, vice versa. Maybe that's just something I learn as we play more and I get more time in the game though, so we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, I think that's more specific to just where I'm at with the movement right now. Another thing that I think is a little bit more agreed upon that's a bit of a bummer is the lack of looping streaks. You get one set of kill streaks, or score streaks rather. You get one set of streaks per life. So if you frag out, you get 10 kills, you get one set of streaks. So you get your UAV and your Hellstorm and your chopper, and then you're just done. I wish you could wrap that through and get another UAV and keep that streak going and not have to rely on teammates to give you more UAVs and more information and more streaks as you're going through. You can just build that for yourself and keep rocking and rolling until you get taken out. Another big complaint I have, footstep audio. I don't know if it exists. They did make a big point saying, hey, we have a revised audio mechanic system. We've got new audio tech in Black Ops 6. I thought that was going to be like, okay, great. We're going to have great audio. Footsteps are going to be super apparent. Directional audio is going to be great. I really cannot depend on footsteps at all. Now, I am playing in a Discord. My friends are talking. I'm talking. We're doing this, that, and whatever else. Like, the game audio is not the most prioritized thing in my, personal gameplay experience. But even when I tried to focus in on footsteps, using the acoustic amp even, the consistency was just not there. Sometimes I would hear them, sometimes I would not. I think there needs to be some sort of tweak there to either make footsteps more apparent or at least more consistent, right? It just was not something that really stood out to me whatsoever. Another pretty obvious one, I can't believe I'm saying this, but cheating is already an issue in the beta. We know Ricochet anti-cheat is extremely underwhelming. I've talked about this a gazillion times on the channel. The anti-cheat's not good. It needs to be preventative, not reactive. It needs upgrades. It hasn't gotten them. But yeah, there's already cheating issues in the beta. People are downloading cheats and posting them, and I just can't imagine trying to cheat on a beta. What is going on in your life that is how you have fun? Well, like, you need a hug or something. Like, that's just rough. That's a bad look. But yeah, cheating is in the beta. I can't imagine having that mindset. Like, the most loser energy. But it's a thing, and it just highlights again, Ricochet's gotta do better. A couple more nitpicky things, very detailed things that I think are more so my issues rather than I think global issues with the game, but of course I want to give as much feedback as I can. The setting menu, there's a lot of like sub menus now where there's like the movement advanced settings or combat advanced settings rather than just having them listed there anyways because it's all the same stuff we've had before. The sub menus I think are going to cause some players to maybe miss out on some settings. They're just not going to fully investigate all there is to tweak and change. So I just don't really know if there's necessarily a need for those. And then also certain settings being renamed just makes things a little bit more confusing for players that don't pay attention. Obviously, I myself, I'm always going to post like, hey, use these settings. This is the best for the best frames. This is the best for movement. This is the best for, aiming or whatever else. Like, I'm trying to help you guys out by posting the best settings, but not everyone should have to look up a settings video to make sure they're optimizing everything. It shouldn't really be confusing in any way. I think it should all be pretty self-explanatory, at least if you're trying to actively go through and you know a decent bit about what you're changing. So just renaming things, I think muddies the water a little bit there. So the settings menu, I think, could use some updates. Then also, at least on BNet where I play Black Ops 6 from, I have to launch Call of Duty, which brings me to the Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone menu, and then I have to click on the Black Ops tab, which then closes my Call of Duty game and then reopens the Black Ops app as a separate app. I just want to open up the Black Ops app to begin with. I think this is going to change when the full game comes out. I think they mentioned that in like their COD HQ update blog from a few weeks back. But I'm just going to say it now. It's an annoying thing that I have to open a game and then close that game just to open up Black Ops 6. That's not seamless or convenient whatsoever. It shouldn't take that long to just boot up my game, right? So that's annoying for me personally. But like I said, I think that's going to be fixed. That said, those are all of my issues and then my great takeaways from Black Ops 6 so far. I am really enjoying this beta. I'm really enjoying this multiplayer. It's definitely not flawless. There are things that could change that I think can make it even better, but for this being a beta, I'm really having a good time so far, and I'm very much so anticipating the full game where we get full access to everything. Obviously, we can check out zombies and Warzone and everything else. So I'm pretty optimistic for COD this year, more so than I've been in recent years, which is fun. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be a great game. I'm not going to say you should go and buy it. You should do whatever you want with your money. And if you're on the fence about this, people say it looks all right, but there's also things I don't like about it. It's going to have skill base. The anti-cheat's not going to be great. Play the open beta. Play the free open beta. Get your own experience, your own hands-on with it, and then determine your situation from that. I think the best possible way to figure out if you like the game or not is not necessarily to go off of a bunch of other people's opinions, but to play it for yourself. And with the open beta next weekend, we can all do that. So check it out if you want, and then make your opinion then. But yeah, having a good time so far. Hoping that continues into the next weekend and then into full launch as well. That being said, that's going to wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, you want to help share it around, get more attention and spotlight on some of these things that I think could be fixed or could be improved upon. Like rating is always really appreciated. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button on your way out to guarantee you we're always up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.